Good morning, friends, and welcome to my today's lecture, that is the second poem of Sylvia Plath, Daddy. Now, before I move on to the poem, I would first like to say something about what this poem, Daddy, is all about. As we have already done one poetry of Sylvia Plath, Lady Lazarus, in my earlier few lectures, I'm sure we are well aware of what kind of a writer Sylvia Plath is. As we know, she's a confessional poem. Now, this poem, Daddy, is a controversial and highly anthologized poem by this American poet, Sylvia Plath. It has been told from the perspective of a woman addressing her father, the memory of whom has an oppressing power over her. The poem details the speaker's struggle to break free of his influence, that is, the influence of the father. It is a brutal and a venomous poem. This poem was published posthumously in 1965 as a part of the collection Ariel, that is a collection of poems by Sylvia. But it was originally written in October 1962, a month after Sylvia Plath's separation from her husband, the poet Ted Huey, and 4 months before her death by suicide. Plath is most known for her tortured soul, and that is the reason readers identify with her works of poetry so well. She has an uncanny ability to give meaningful words to some of the most inexpressible emotions. Here she writes about her father, that is after his death, but this is not a typical obituary poem lamenting the loss of the loved one, wishing for his return and hoping to see him again. Rather, Plath feels a sense of relief at his departure from her life. She explores the reasons behind this feeling in the lines of this poem. Plath describes herself as a girl with an Electra complex. Her father died while she thought that he was God. Now, she describes her father as a Nazi, that is, the oppressor or the victimizer, and her mother as a Jewish or the oppressed or the victimized. Now, literary historians have determined that neither of these statements about her parents was accurate, but they were introduced into the narrative in order to enhance its poignancy and stretch the limits of the allegory. Now, in this poem, Daddy, I told you what it all means, what it all talks about. When we read through the poem, see, as the line reads, I'll be explaining the poem now. You do not do any more, black shoe, in which I have lived like a foot for 30 years, poor and white, barely daring to breathe or a chew. Now, in this stanza, the speaker or the poet, Sylvia Plath, as we call her, reveals that the subject of whom she speaks is no longer there. That is why she says, and repeats, you do not do. The following line that is there, it is rather surprising, as it does not express the loss or the sadness. On the contrary, it begins to reveal the nature of this particular father-daughter relationship. Here, the speaker compares her father to a black shoe. It seems like a strange comparison until the third line, that is, in which I have lived like a foot. This line reveals that the speaker herself has felt herself like a foot in that black shoe, and she has been forced to live there for 30 years in that shoe. The foot is poor and white because for 30 years it has been suffocated by the shoe and has never been allowed to see the light of the day. The last line, that is, barely daring to breathe or attune. Now this line reveals that she not only felt suffocated by her father, but she was even fearful of him. In fact, she expresses that her fear of him was so intense that she was afraid to even breathe or sneeze in that atmosphere. Now, in the next paragraph, when we read through, "Daddy, I have had to kill you. You died before I had time. Marble heavy, a bag full of God, ghastly statue with one great toe, big as a fresco seal." Now here, the poet reveals her own personal desire to kill her father. The first line, "Daddy, I have had to kill you," it itself states that the next line that states that she wanted to kill her father. The next line goes on to explain that she actually did not have time to kill her father because he died before she could even manage to do it. She does not make this confession either regretfully or sorrowfully, but she calls him a bag full of God, which suggests that her view of her father as well as her view of God was one of fear and trepidation. She describes him as a ghastly statue with one great toe, big as a fresco seal. Her description of her father as a statue suggests that she saw no capacity for feeling in him. A fresco seal refers to one of the sea lions that can be seen in San Francisco. When she describes that one of his toe is as big as a seal, it reveals just how enormous and overbearing her father seemed to her. He was hardened, without feelings, and now that he is dead, she thinks he looks like an enormous, ominous statue. That's all for now. Please stay tuned. Please watch and like my video. Goodbye and good day.